Hey guys, it's Faye from Solarflow, and I am back with an all-new video. Today's topic is a deep dive behind the veil energy read on the woman people love to hate. I am talking about none other than the actress Gwyneth Paltrow. So we're going to be exploring if the thing that people seem to dislike about her is in fact genuine to who she is, or if it is in fact some sort of a fabrication of a personality put out onto the world stage. We're also going to be exploring her relationship with Brad Pitt, Chris Martin, and some interesting tidbits that had come in on the Hollywood industry as well. So if that sounds good, please stick around, and if not, I will catch you in another video. Now, in case you're not entirely familiar with who Gwyneth Paltrow is, don't worry, I gotcha. I got some 3D information that I copied off of her Wikipedia page, which I'm going to first share with you, and then we will get into the energy reading on her. So, Gwyneth Paltrow is an American actress and businesswoman. She is the recipient of various accolades, including an Academy Award, a Golden Globe Award, and an Emmy Award. The reason I am laughing is because of the term accolade. Why can't we just call it what it is? She has won a number of acting awards. Because this is not a woman, although she is a self-proclaimed businesswoman, this is not a woman that has found a cure for cancer. She has not won a Nobel Peace Prize. So can we just call the accolades what they are? Acting awards. Because she reads lines off a paper for a living, right? Okay, but I digress. I may in fact be one of the people that love to hate her as well. I cannot confirm nor deny it, but perhaps the level of my snark in this video may illuminate that to you, because my snark kind of comes out in tandem with the degree or the lack of a degree in which I like or dislike somebody. So I'm going to let you guys put those pieces together. Now, in addition to being loved to be hated and being a Hollywood actress, she has been in 55 films and 15 TV shows. She is also known for Goop, the lifestyle brand that she launched in 2008. And it had first started as a weekly lifestyle newsletter before quickly expanding to be a web-based company. And to date, it has had collaborations with fashion brands. They have hosted pop-up shops. There's a Goop magazine, a Goop podcast. There's a Goop wellness summit. And in addition to all of that, there is also a Netflix docu-series all about Goop. In regards to where the name Goop came from, in case you were curious or not curious, Gwyneth Paltrow had been told that websites that have two O's in the name are the most successful. Okay, so according to her, Goop, quote, is a nickname like my name is GP. I think she meant her initials and not her name, but nonetheless. So quote, Goop is a nickname like my name is GP, so it's really where it came from. And I wanted a word that means nothing and could mean anything, end quote. You can let me know if that illuminates for you where Goop actually came from. Other than her wanting it to be successful and wanting it to be some sort of a representation of her because it has her initials in it. Gwyneth Paltrow has an estimated net worth between $200 and $250 million. Now, in regards to her personal life, she was married to a musician by the name of Chris Martin, the lead singer of a band named Coldplay, from 2003 until 2016, and she has since then married a man by the name of Brad Paltrow in 2018. She has 2 kids with Chris Martin. Let's see what Gwyneths Energy wanted to share with me. So, Gwyneth Paltrow, as soon as I had connected to her energy, was not happy to see me and was in fact tempted to take her hand, her energetic hand, and smash it into my face to get me to leave her alone. But she thought better of it, and she assessed the situation to see how I could best be used for her. So, two notable things have already come up in the first 5 minutes. She chose a website name based on the fact that somebody had told her websites with 2 O's in it are most successful. This is somebody that wants to be successful. In addition to that, this is somebody that had no problem energetically smashing her hand into my face until she reassessed this situation to see how I could be used to her advantage. Okay, put a pin in this. This is helping to build out the character profile and who she is behind the veil. Now here's the thing. This is not my first rodeo. And if you've been here, you know it's not my first rodeo. This is not the first celebrity that I have looked into. This is also not the first celebrity that I have had an interaction with in which they wanted to commandeer the ship. A la, for example, Madonna. I wanted to read her energy and she was like, no problem, girlfriend, but it's on my terms. So it's everything that I want to share, and it's through the lens in the way in which I want to present it to you, and otherwise I will not give you consent to look into the energy around me. And I was amenable to it because I wanted to look into Madonna's energy. Now, here's the thing. Because again, as I had said earlier, I'm not going to confirm nor deny if Gwyneth is somebody that I myself love to hate. She's certainly not somebody that I was like dying to look into her energy. But this was a topic that was requested, and I was compelled by her because, again, as when I had first connected to her, she was like, no, girlfriend, no. And then she was like, actually, how can I use you? Kind of compelling. But again, it's not my first rodeo, and I really don't like to be used by the subjects that I look into to frame them in some kind of a particular way in which they want to be presented. So, after going through this time and again, I had decided on a different approach. And I was not just going to be amenable to what she wanted to share with me. So I had told her I was not interested in being taken on a tour of her pre-approved memories and half-truths. And that I was only interested in having a real and honest discourse with her. And if she couldn't give me that, then would she at least give me consent to look into her energy overall? Now, she really, 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 really wanted to remain in control. However, ultimately, vanity won out, and she did in fact grant me access to look into the energy around her. So I did. Now add this to the list of character traits that are building out the profile in who Gwyneth Paltrow is. Vain. This is a vain woman. So first and foremost, when I started to look into her energy after receiving her consent, what was shown to me is that she lives a completely insulated life. And she lives in a completely insulated world as well. And truly, it is not the kind of life that you, nor I, nor 99% of the population could understand. Because she is not like us. And she has never been like us. And the reason for that is she grew up entitled. There is just no other way to put it. She grew up in a big ass motherfucking house. She went to a snooty private school with other industry kids, Hollywood industry kids. She grew up calling Steven Spielberg Uncle Steve or Uncle Steven, right? Like as a term of endearment, because he's not in fact actually her biological uncle. But the families were so close that she grew up calling Steven Spielberg Uncle Steve. Term of endearment. And she vacationed in places like Turks and Caicos and Greece and Italy. Insulated, private life that was one of entitlement. Now, in addition to that, Gwyneth Paltrow has never, ever struggled to pay a bill, nor wondered where her next meal may be coming from, or if, when she pulls up to the gas station, if her credit card will even work for her to put gas in her car. Because it's a given, she's got a car, she's got to put gas into it. The thought would never even cross her mind if when she puts her credit card in, if she can even fill up her car. Insulated and entitled. She has never seen the way real people live, and she frankly cannot even fathom it. It is as foreign to her as the concept of people living below the water without an oxygen tank or a breathing apparatus. So, because it's so outside the realm of possibility, why even bother thinking about it? This is how she feels about it. This is how she feels about people that live differently from her. It is so outside the realm of anything that she can conceptually even understand, she doesn't bother thinking about it. Now, case in point, I have an anecdotal example that I will share with you, which is, this has got to be going back like 15 years ago. I was reading a magazine by the name of In Style, and they had, I'm not sure if they had asked her to be like the guest editor, and they had also run a feature article on her, or if they just asked her to like submit her 6 essential must-have pieces for the upcoming fall season. Now, I don't remember the 6 pieces that she had chosen, but I do remember their total price tag. And before I share that with you, I'm just gonna say, us like 99%ers, what might we do before we transition our closet from one season to another? So maybe we're gonna start to pack away our summer stuff, you know, our little cute short sleeve t-shirts or crop tops or shorts, our little flouncy skirts and dresses. We're gonna start to take out the, you know, maybe our sweaters, our heavier kind of clothing. We're gonna maybe be assessing it to see, does anything need to be laundered? Does it need to go to the dry cleaners? Is it still my style? Does it reflect me? Do I want to keep it? Do I want to donate it? Then we'll start to kind of assess like any new pieces that we need to add to our wardrobe. Maybe like a new jacket, maybe tights, maybe a new pair of leggings, maybe even a new pair of boots that you may or may not need, but they're just so darn cute that you can't leave them in the store, right? That's kind of like what the 99%ers may in fact do. Not Gwyneth Paltrow, because she's a 1%er. So her 6 have pieces that she shared with In Style magazine. Don't remember what they were. I remember there was like a blazer and like a skirt and like slacks and like a pair of shoes and like some bag and maybe even like a pair of earrings or some accessory. Total sum for those 6 pieces? $30,000. $30,000 for 6 pieces to include in her fall wardrobe for the upcoming fall season. Those were her essential must-have pieces. $30,000, 6 articles of clothing and accessories. Now, interestingly enough, as if that wasn't egregious enough, if you may have in fact read that, or maybe even if you even didn't read it. But after this came out, there was kind of like a mini brouhaha, where people were like, she seems like she's kind of out of touch with reality. So somebody had in fact asked her, like, could you maybe even understand how these 6 so-called must-have pieces, it's not really jiving with the everyday person? What was her answer? I can't pretend to know what it's like to earn $50,000 a year. I kind of paraphrased. It's not a direct quote. That's kind of what she said about it though. So basically, essentially, no fucks given. No like, sorry, not sorry. No like, well, I just live a different lifestyle. I'm an A-lister. I earn millions of dollars a year. I read lines off of a piece of paper for my living. None of that. It's like, I just can't pretend to know what it's like to be you. No fucks given. At all. Whatsoever. She's like, whatevs. So yeah, Gwyneth Paltrow grew up rich, entitled, and insulated. But in case you were wondering, she's, Hollywood actress. Her dad was in the Hollywood industry as well. She has an estimated net worth between $200 and $250 million. So that alone, second generation Hollywood actress, very, very wealthy, grew up insulated. In case you were wondering if Gwyneth Paltrow is in the club, oh yes, my friends. Not only is she in the club, but her family is way up in the motherfucking Hollywood club. They are in fact so high up in the club because, again, I remind you, she grew up calling Steven Spielberg Uncle Steve. But in addition to that, there was nothing her family had to do to rise through the ranks because they were already the top. They were at the top of the ranks because this is a Hollywood elite family. Now, our understanding as a 99%er, certainly if one was not awake, their understanding of the way that the Hollywood industry may work is that it's a movie-making business, right? They have actors, they have actresses, they get cast to play characters in a film, there's a director that's making the movie, there's the costume department that's putting together the clothing, then there's the cinematographers. So it's an industry within itself, but it's primarily based on this idea of creating entertainment for people that will then hopefully earn back more money than the amount of money that was put into the creation of it. So on the outside looking in, that is the way that one might perceive the industry to be. But here's the thing, the actual movie making is one piece of the pie in the entire pizza pie of what the Hollywood industry in fact is. Because in addition to the creation of movies, what are they also doing? They are doing reveals. And what are reveals? It's anything that in fact can be true, but it's being presented to us in a way of it being fictitious. And that is due to the fact that the Hollywood Club has something called a tenet of their beliefs, which is called karmic retribution. And that means that the Hollywood industry, being one arm of the cabal, they can do whatever it is that they want to do to us as long as they show us in a movie, they reveal to us in a movie that they are going to do it or that they in fact have been doing it. But that's not just for what they want to do to us, it's for everything as a whole. So they can be creating movies about people having magical gifts and abilities, but it's being presented in a way of it being a fictitious film, and therefore our mind will perceive it to be that it's in fact fiction, it's fake. Because once they share with us through the reveals, it's no longer on them because they've shared it with us. So their responsibility is not how we choose to perceive it or how we choose to receive it. They've already done what they've needed to do. So there's the movie making, which is also one piece in a puzzle of doing reveals to letting people know the way that the world actually works or what they actually are going to do to us or what they have already in fact been doing to us. Like a la, for an example, a movie like The Matrix. You know, they're siphoning your life force energy off of you. But another piece in it is to create division between the 99%ers and the 1%. It's, if you will, creating false idols. But it's not idols that we bow down to. It's more like false idols and it's idol worship in terms of us giving our attention to them, giving our focus to them, watching the movies that they're in, watching the award shows, watching the, the red carpet to see what they're wearing. And it's to siphon our attention off of us. But in addition to that, it's to further create a caste system between the haves and the have-nots, because we don't look like them. They, in fact, don't even look like them. But that doesn't matter because we don't get to know them well enough, or they're really not, for example, going to be an A-lister until they look otherworldly and they look like a modern-day god or goddess. They just don't look like us. So it's to create this sense of division between us and them because we don't look like them. So surely there's something wrong with us because we aren't just naturally blessed to look that way. Never you mind the fact that they don't even look that way. So there's all of these other pieces in the pie that's comprising the Hollywood industry. And one of the last ones is they are putting people together for faux mances. And a faux mance is a fake romance. Faux mance. So why would they be putting people together for a faux mance? This would, for example, be where this couple has now done a feature film together. So what better way to drum up additional interest in this film than to have the lead characters be in a romance? We just don't know that it's a faux mance. So it drums up all of this additional attention directed at the film to continue to capture our attention and keep it directed into outside of ourselves into the Hollywood film industry. It's also great for selling magazines. Do you remember when Brad Pitt was divorcing, what's her name? And he hooked up with Angelina Jolie? Whose side were you on? Were you team Jennifer Aniston or team Angelina Jolie? Right? So all of these things are done with the intention of siphoning our attention away from us ourselves. Another piece in the puzzle. So Gwyneth Paltrow is a Hollywood elite family. But in addition to that, because she's a Hollywood elite family, her dad was involved in the creation of the Faux Mances. So get a load of this. Her family, way high up in the club. Her dad was part of the team that is putting the Faux Mances out onto the world stage. So, when the new club darling, the it boy of the moment, Brad Pitt came along, it was a no-brainer that he was going to be placed with the darling girl, with his own darling girl, Gwyneth Paltrow. Because the club was betting very heavily on their investment in Brad Pitt. Because yes, actors and actresses are seen as investments. And sometimes you put money in, so later on you can take money out. So the procedures, the cosmetic procedures that are done, the celebrity themselves may not in fact be paying for it. It's paid by the person that is investing in them, because they then own that person outright, and they get a cut of that actor or actress's payday. So when we see these insane paydays of actors and actresses getting $20 million a film, that is in fact because part of that payday goes back to the person that first invested in them. So the club was very heavily investing in their new darling. Now, Brad Pitt was not born into the club, but he was somebody that later on had joined it. And what better way to show than this is, to borrow the terminology of the mob, this is a friend of ours, not just a friend of mine. It's to have him be seen with for anyone else that was in the club and in the know would know he's with Gwyneth Paltrow, he's in the club. It's a tell within itself. Because anyone that was in the club and that was knowledgeable about it would know Gwyneth Paltrow, Bruce Paltrow, her dad, I think that was his name, Bruce Paltrow, way high the fuck up in the club. So obviously if Gwyneth is dating him, it's because he has been vetted and he has been approved. He is now a member of the club. So this was done to show, it's kind of like, what did they do back in like the 1800s? When there was an eligible girl that was now eligible to be married, she would be part of like the summer ball circuit. She would go out, she would dance with people. It was like she was being introduced to everybody that lived in the town as an eligible maiden to be married now. So it's very much the same way that he was seen with Gwyneth, was his announcing to everybody else, I've arrived. It was like his arriving tour, if you will. It was to show that he was protected. And it was good business. It was good for Gwyneth to be seen with him. It was good for her image, because he was, holy fuck, back in the day, Brad Pitt, he's still a good looking man, but back in the day, He had like this Greek god thing going on, right? Like he had before he cut his hair to look like her, which was by design, but he had like these long golden locks. He had like my God, the chiseled abs, the chiseled, every fucking thing about him was chiseled. He was good looking. So it was in fact very good for her to be seen with him. It was good for him to be seen with her because it was his announcement to everybody else that was in the know he had arrived. So in case you were wondering, is this in fact, or was this in fact, past tense, was this in fact a real relationship or was it a faux mance? It started out as a faux mance. But here's the thing. You put one incredibly good looking and one pretty good looking person together into a faux mance. They're young. They got their fucking hormones running through them. Guess the fuck what? They're going to end up sleeping together at some point, whether or not they had to or whether or not it was the script. So this did in fact start out as a faux mance, but it did later on turn into a real relationship. And that actually was shown to me. The reason that Brad Pitt had cut his hair to look more like Gwyneth was his way of saying, this is real now. Because the Hollywood handlers wanted him to have a certain look about him, but it was his way of saying, this is beyond image purposes now. This is me becoming my own person, and me becoming my own person means I want to look like the person I'm in an actual real relationship with. It's no longer for brand purposes. So yes, started out as a faux mance, became a real romance. And from Gwyneth Paltrow, Brad Pitt was fucking hot, so why the fuck not? Now, if her logic sounds a bit vapid to you, I will share with you that she can in fact at times be vapid. Because again, she grew up insulated and entitled, never had to worry about a thing in her life, and therefore a certain malaise of character had developed. Because our hardships actually, in fact, give us depth as we expand and grow through them. But she hadn't really had any hardships, so she hadn't really grown all that much, at least not in any meaningful way. And this is not me being judgy. This is what the guides had shown me. Because her entire life had been laid out for her. She was insulated, she was entitled, she was inserted into the Hollywood club at a very young age, and in fact, had a guaranteed career set out in front of her. And it was one that had included an Academy Award. Now, this is not where she won an Academy Award for her very, very first picture, her very first movie. That happens very, very rarely, but it does tend to happen. So she, I think, hit like the Hollywood scene in like 1991. She had appeared in like a couple of things here and there, but like her first real big feature was in a movie called Shakespeare in Love, in which she had won an Academy Award. Now, it's questionable if you think that it was due to her own merit. I will let you be the arbiter and determining factor for what you yourself believe. But it has been said, and it has been speculated, that perhaps the award was not actually given to her because of her merit in acting alone, but it was actually, in fact, to pay respect to who her father was. Because yes, that shit actually does happen in the Hollywood industry. You want to honor me? Give an award to my kid because it's going to make my kid really fucking happy. And this was a Hollywood elite family, so he certainly could have said that. Now, this is also to illuminate that the way in which winners are chosen, it's not, in fact, what we've been told it is. We've been told that you have to be a member of the Hollywood whatever the fuck, and then you will get a ballot in the mail, and then you will fill it out who you think deserves to be the Academy Award winner for all of these different categories. Best Supporting Actor, Actress, Best Actor, Actress, Best Director, Best Cinematographer, Best whatever the fucker. All of the winners of who the Academy Award is given to is determined well in advance. Just like all of the major sporting events are determined in advance and does not play out in real time. So if you watch the Super Bowl, you're maybe seeing a scripted version of the Super Bowl, but that's not real. Just like the winner of who wins an Academy Award isn't real either. It's who they want to give it to. Actual acting merit may or may not play some degree of a role in it. Could be 10%, could be 80%. It's not the full percent. So did she in fact earn that Academy Award, or was it given to her because of who her father was? And was it in fact to show respect for him? I let you decide. But again, she had an acting career, and she could act if and when she wanted to. And other than that, she was free to just be and to live. And again, it was without any significant care in the world. Plus, she could have her pick of any man she wanted. So life was good. Life was good for her, except for, this is her word, not mine, her dalliance with Chris Martin. Yeah. She was warned, he's not one of us. And what does it mean, not one of us? It means he was not vetted to be an adequate partner for her. And it also meant that at the time that they dated, he wasn't yet in the club. He might have been Hollywood adjacent. He might have been club savvy, club friendly. He wasn't fully ingrained in it. So he was not at that time vetted the way they would vet other potential partners for the A-list families, right? Because if you're an A-lister, they're not going to put you with somebody that you hate to promote a movie. No fucking way. They're going to put you, it's going to be a more conscious pairing, and it's going to be with some sort of a elevated status in mind. Not like you two fuckers just started together, so guess the fuck what, you're in a Faux Mances now. Hit the red carpet and act like you love each other. I fucking hate this person. It doesn't matter. Shut the fuck up. So they don't do that with the A-listers. The A-listers have a list of pre-approved people that have been vetted to be good partners for them. Chris Martin was not on that list. And was in fact untested and unknown and a bit of a wild card. But maybe that's why she liked him. He was different. He did not look at her like everybody else did, and he didn't look at her family the way everybody else did, which is her fucking father could crush my career like I'm a blueberry crushed between his fingers. They would be scared. Chris Martin wasn't. He was exotic because he was from England, and he was a bit emo because he wrote music, and he was so foreign and alien to her that it even felt a little bit like a rebellion to be with him because he hadn't been vetted and approved. And did she ever really rebel before? No. Would she ever really rebel again in the future? Undetermined and unknown. But it didn't matter because she wanted him. So she really turned on the charm for him. She could be someone else. She could do it. This is her telling it to herself, or she could try anyway. But they were very different. She was a California girl without a ton of depth, and Chris was a bloke from England who used his sense of humor to diffuse his own levels of uncomfortability. And he felt really rather uncomfortable around her and her family because they were very different from him. But he would never let on about that. He was just really fucking funny. And that was his shield, one could say. But she didn't see it as a shield. And actually, she wouldn't have even have cared if it was a shield. So he was very fucking funny with her. And despite her charm towards him, there was always something about her he couldn't quite put his finger on. But early on, Chris Martin had kind of just chalked it up to them being very, very different and growing up very, very different lifestyles, different countries, everything. So he kind of was, at least early on, he was dismissing it. Something he couldn't quite put his finger on. Maybe it's just that we grew up really, really differently. But she was, at least early on, also shown to me to be like a ray of sunshine to him, because her turning her charm on had blinded him. So add this as another piece into the character assessment we're building out. She can operate a charming facade. But then she was pregnant, and despite his reservations, it seemed to make sense to get married and to have a life together. And surely, he told himself, they would grow closer once they were married. But ultimately, Chris found her to be unknowable. And she was unknowable to him because, again, she doesn't have any real depth. She's pretty surface level, in fact, and was also shown to me as sometimes being completely unrelenting in how she wanted things to be. But soon they had a newborn, and her prickly side was forgotten or quickly explained away by being due to sleep deprivation. But then the sleep deprivation moodiness never really completely subsided or went away. So soon Chris was realizing that this is in fact just the way she was. But then she was pregnant again. And he felt well and truly stuck. Because while he didn't necessarily want to leave, he certainly didn't want to leave his kids at that point, he also didn't necessarily want to stay. Because Gwyneth could be rather exact and almost like, it's like beyond methodical. It was like unrelenting and uncompromising in the way that she wanted things to be. And she would implement massive changes without even consulting Chris on any of her ideas. She even was shown to me as having gone far enough as she implemented these things without getting his consultation on it, but she would also arrange play dates, if you will, or arrange get-togethers with other men that she thought Chris should be friends with. Does it matter if they had anything in common? Didn't matter. Did it matter if they hit it off? Didn't matter. Not to Gwyneth. So she was very exact in the way things she wanted them to be. Chris, these are people you should be friends with. Did she consult him on it? No. But he was expected to go on these play dates as literally as if this was a mother arranging play dates for him. He was expected to go on it and put on a brave fucking face and come back and say everything was great. Didn't matter how he actually felt about it. And it was exhausting for Chris to try to explain to her why this was not okay on so many different levels. But again, she had ideas about the way she wanted her life to be and her family's life to be, and they ultimately had no choice but to follow her ideas. Because once she got them into her mind, she was as movable as a mountain would be. Like, for example, another anecdotal example. I remember reading years ago that she and her family had decided they were going to be carb-free. Okay. Did she consult with her family how they felt about being a carb-free family? No. Didn't fucking matter. It was what she wanted, not just for herself, for all of them. She didn't want to be sitting around poking at her fucking lettuce, looking at her kids eating pizza. No, if I have to suffer, you fuckers are suffering with me. Also, did she in fact actually even consult with a pediatrician if being carb-free was good for the developing brains of her littles? Didn't fucking matter. This is what she wanted for all of them. And I remember her actually stating in this interview I had read, like, again, paraphrasing, there's like a certain hunger you always feel, not feeling completely satiated by not eating carbs. That's fine for yourself, lady. If you want to do that as an adult, you got other people to think about as well. I told you, people love to hate her. Not confirming or denying if I'm one of them. Read between the lines. What about therapy? There was real fucking cracks in the foundation between her and Chris Martin. Would she go to therapy? Oh, no fucking way. No, no, no. Because people like her simply don't do therapy. So by default, that meant no couples therapy either. At least not back then it didn't. She's developed quite a bit since then. And a lot of the things that she promotes on Goop are like alternative healing modalities and healing methods. She may be more amenable to it now, but back then, no fucking way. People like us don't do therapy, Chris. And it was pointless for him to try to talk her into it. Equally pointless was for her to try to talk him out of it. So he actually went and he did some therapy on his own. He did it without her. But ultimately, it was not a waste. Because what he had gotten out of therapy was his realization of her inability. This is like beyond not her meeting him halfway. She wouldn't meet him like a quarter of the way. She wouldn't meet him 10% of the way. She would not meet him 1% of the way because she had exact ways in which she wanted her life to play out. Her life and her family's life. So she wasn't going to meet him even 1% of the way. So his realization of that fact was a fatal flaw to the relationship because he realized she had never actually seen him. Never actually really seen Chris for who he was. Again, she went so far as to create fucking play dates for him. Did it matter if he wanted to go on them? No, you're going. Does it matter if I have anything in common? No, you're going. Because this is the kind of person you should be friends with, Chris. So he realized she had never actually in fact seen him. Therefore, she hadn't fallen in love with him because she never actually saw him to fall in love with him. Therefore, she would never actually, in fact, be able to see him. And all she saw was a construct of her own making, and where she was projecting on him how she thought her life should be instead of seeing her life for how it in fact was. So not really having a foundation in reality here. She didn't see it for how it was or the potential of how it could be. She only saw it for how it should be and then went about trying to implement it at all costs. And Chris had shared with me that getting away from her, he does in fact feel lucky. And he is slowly starting to come back to himself, and he can acknowledge he has grown from the experience as a whole. He's just not sure that she has. She has, in some ways, because first and foremost, she will never again stray from the approved men that she is meant to date or marry. That's why she ended up with a Brad Falchuk. He was vetted and approved, i.e. in the club. And as her mom liked to always remind her, why bother? Why bother going out and getting your hands dirty and trying to meet somebody that's going to be a good fit for you? Somebody else has already done all of the hard work for you, my dear. Like, is this a family that has to go out and hunt meat for themselves? No, of course not. That's what they have their private chefs for. Let them get their hands dirty. So somebody else has already vetted and approved the best possible candidates for you. Be grateful that it's done. Now, pick somebody more like you and live happily ever after with them. Her mom's advice to her. And she has. Mostly lived happily ever after. Because she has a perfectly insulated existence in which she does whatever she likes. She has almost no concerns except for that thorn in her side named Terry Sanderson. And this past winter, Terry Sanderson is a man that had brought a legal suit against her for claiming when they were both skiing in, I believe it was like Vail, Colorado, that Gwyneth had hit him, She had claimed that he had hit her, and he sued her for $300,000. She brought a countersuit against him for one single solo dollar. So Gwyneth had acknowledged, for the most part, she has lived a perfect life, except for the thorn in her side named Terry Sanderson. But thank goodness that's all behind her, and that's been resolved, because going to court had been exhausting. But she knew justice would prevail, because it was obvious he was lying, and she was glad that the jury had seen it as well. So what's next for Gwyneth Paltrow? Maybe she'll have a bone broth, if you know, you know. Maybe she'll have her bone broth, she'll sit in her sauna, and she'll just enjoy her life. Because why not? It's not like she has anything else to do anyway. So that is the reading that I have for you on Gwyneth Paltrow. I hope that you have found this video to be insightful, maybe a bit entertaining. Please take what resonates, leave the rest behind, and your reminder, until next time and every moment in between, to stay in the high vibration.